Ernie, you have number 11.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $8,000 to be added to the Property Reevaluation Expendable Trust Fund. The selectmen recommend this appropriation. Majority vote required.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Would you like?
The town is on a 5-year cycle and contract with Avatar to evaluate our properties. At the end of 3 years, they look and see if the values have changed enough to warrant a full evaluation. If they do not, then this money could be used by the selectmen to pay for a modified? No.
I'm sorry. I'm going to step in, okay?
Sure.
Okay. This fund is actually for the 5th year of our evaluation. That's when the biggest expense of the property reval comes in. As Ernie was saying, at the end of 3 years, they do an audit of our evaluation to see where we stand. If our evaluations are out of skew, they start the evaluation early. If they don't, or they do a percentage of the town. So, but at the end of the 5th year, that's when the full-blown evaluation comes out. And that is when the largest payment to Avatar is due. So by putting this money aside over a 4 or 5 year period, then on that 5th year, we're not coming to the town and asking for one big chunk of money to pay for the contract. So it makes sense to break it up over 4 or 5 years than it does to try to raise it all in 1 year.
Yeah, I would add to that at the present time, that fund has a grand total of $473 in it. It has been spent down previously, and the $8,000 figure, if we came to you 3 years in a row, that works out to $24,000, which is typically about what it costs us for a full-blown evaluation on the 5th year.
Good. Any further discussion on this warrant article? Ready for the question? Go ahead.
I have a question. Pam Fraser.
Go ahead, Pam.
I was curious as to why that fund was spent down. I thought we were adding to that fund every year to eventually build up to the 5th year.
The intention was to do it over a 3-year period. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th year. The first 2 years we've just been working to keep the tax rate down. We didn't do it over 5.
You did not add to it last year?
We did not, no.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. Clifton, you have number 12.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,250 to be added to the Capital Reserve Fund known as the Town Cemetery Fund. The selectmen recommend this appropriation. Majority vote required.
Is there a second? Thank you. Would you like to speak to that, Clifton?
I sure would. Currently, the fund has $8,393 in it. As most people who have lived in this town for any period of time know that the town's current cemetery is very full and has very limited space for future residents. So with that being said, the town does need to plan and look to the future and buy or hopefully have somebody donate a parcel of property to us for that cemetery. And if we get a donated parcel of property, we are still going to have expenses of preparing that piece of property to be ready to receive future residents. So either way, we're trying to prepare for the future and either purchase or have enough money set aside to prep the ground for a new town cemetery.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. Bill, looks like they left the big one to you.
to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the selectmen's recommended sum of $608,687 for the town operating budget. Said sum does not include special or individual articles addressed in this warrant. The selectmen recommend this appropriation. Majority vote required.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Frank?
I would like to propose an amendment to this article. I have it in writing.
Thank you.
Copy for you, and a copy for you.
Thanks, Frank.
Would you like to read your amendment?
My amendment is, I move that we amend line 4130.101, which is the selectman's salary line, to be $7,500.
Could you clarify this by telling us what it is currently?
It's currently $15,000.
Okay. Is there a second for Frank's motion? Very good. Motion's been made and seconded. The amendment's been made and seconded. Is there discussion to the amendment? Go ahead, Frank.
As those of you who come to town meetings know, I've made this amendment in the past. Several years ago, we raised our selectmen's salary from $1,000 to $5,000 each, or an aggregate total of $15,000. Many of the towns around us who have far more residents continue to pay their selectmen $1,000, and in a lot of those cases, some of those selectmen actually turn the $1,000 back because they see the position as unearned. This amendment absolutely is not a criticism against our current selectmen. They do a great job, and they've done a great job controlling costs. It's just that I continue to feel we're way out of scope with this salary of $5,000 versus $1,000. So there is the argument to be made that we do not have a large staff and that the selectmen do a lot of work. That's why I'm proposing this year to cut it just in half to $2,500 to still recognize the fact that they, because of the lack of staff, that they do indeed do put in extra hours here in our town. But it still feels to me, and that's why I'm making the amendment, that the versus 1,000 versus 5,000, it's just a big gap, and I feel it should be addressed.
Thank you, Frank. Any further discussion?
Point of clarification.
Go ahead.
I believe the selectman's salary was $2,000. And it was then going up to $3,000, and there was a motion on the floor that the people at this meeting, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, voted for it to go to $5,000 each, but it was at $2,000 for a number of years.
You're good. Brad?
Mr. Moderator, it was 17, 18 years ago that I began my career as a selectman in this town for 4 years. At that time, it was a grand total of $800 a year. I've got to tell you, the work that was put in at that time was an awful lot. Nobody signed up for it for the money. Nobody signs up for it now for the money. The work has increased tenfold. I attended many of the meetings, so I'm very familiar with what the selectmen do. We do not have a staff here to speak of. If you want to cut the selectmen's budget, that's fine. But at the same breath that you cut their budget, you need to increase the administrative assistance budget by at least that much, if not more. Somehow the work has to get paid for. I personally recognize the work the selectmen do not support this amendment.
Good. Discussion to the amendment.
Susan
Brown, Brookfield, and I totally agree with Brad Williamson. And I can tell you, as a wife of a selectman for the last umpteen years, the work that Ernie and Clifton and Bill and Craig and everyone else who has served in that capacity is mind-boggling. You would not believe how many meetings they have to attend, how many things they do for the people of this town. The fact that you're paying them $5,000 is peanuts, really.
Go ahead.
Bob Russo, Governor's Office. As a former selectman, I agree with Brad and what was said.
Any further comments on the amendment? Go ahead.
Pam Fraser, I remember talking to Dan, who actually made this proposal to increase the salary by $3,000. The
Okay.
intention originally was to increase the total amount by $3,000, to go from $2,000 to $3,000 each. That was his intention, and he has spoken to me about that since then. When he put it out to the floor, it, I think, was misunderstood to $3,000 each, and the town voted on it that way, to bring it from $2,000 to $5,000. Therefore, I do support Frank's proposal of the amendment.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, for clarification purposes,
Go ahead.
I don't, that's speculation because we don't have Dan here, but I know I was at that meeting, and I think a lot of you were here. I think it was very clear what Dan intended with his motion. And Dan was here and he could answer, we would be, otherwise it's speculation.
Well, Pam can speak to what her understanding of what Dan intended, and,
Yep.
and we recognize that as such.
And he spoke to me very, excuse me,
Go.
he did speak very clearly to, as being that was his intention.
It'd be great if you could tell us
I
himself.
agree.
Is there any further discussion to the amendment?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious to know what selectmen are paid in other towns.
I don't know the answer to that question. Does anyone here know the answer to that question?
Not $5,000.
There is a book, or there used to be a book that was produced that used to list off all of the different salaries of all the different town officials throughout the state. I have not seen an updated version in...
We have one in the...
There is one over there now?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on a CD-ROM.
Oh, that's explains a lot now. It used to come out in book format. I guess now it's in the CD. But the difference in wages between the different towns is night and day. It's up to the townspeople of those towns to decide what they're going to pay their elected officials. And each town is unique in its own workings. And whatever the good townspeople of Brookfield decide is fine by me.
I think your question is a pertinent one, and if the body would like us to take a 10-minute recess for our treasurer to go out and get out her CD-ROM and answer the question, we can do that. We can do that. It's up to you guys. We'll do whatever you want. Is there any further discussion to the amendment? Would you like us to take a recess to answer your question?
Take a poll.
Raise your hands if you would like a 10-minute recess to answer the question. 2. Raise your hands if you do not want to take a recess. The majority is that we're not taking a recess, guys. Is there any further discussion to the amendment? In the back, Adeline.
I would like to remind you that the selectmen now are fulfilling the role also as administrative assistants. The town has wanted the town hall open and available on a daily basis. And it's the selectmen who are coming in here and doing it when there is no one else in town. When the staff is not here, they're here. And so I think it really is something that needs to be considered. We can't keep asking them to spend their entire lives here in town and working for us.
Gary, you're next.
Gary Chickaloni, Lyford Road. We all know everybody in this town. I certainly know the selectmen personally. And I know they field questions from sunrise to way past sunset. When the phone rings, they're there and they answer, because I'm one of the guys that call them sometimes, and I know plenty of people do. I don't think $5,000 is an awful lot of money, considering it's a very small percentage of our entire town budget. These guys get telephone calls all week long. I feel that $5,000 is a very tiny amount of money to compensate them for the aggravation of being selected. I don't support the amendment.
Good. Any other comments to the amendment?
Ryan Robichaud from Gurney Road. $5,000 a year, $96 a week. If you average 40 hours a week, that's a little, not even $3 an hour. I'm pretty sure none of us able to take that job. Furthermore, there was a seat open, one person ran. If that one person didn't run, we would have a vacant seat. So if that money is so sought after and such a coveted prize, why didn't we have 5 people on the ballot?
Frank, I'll let you speak if nobody else wants to. You've already spoken. Does anybody else want to speak first? Seeing no one, I'll let Frank speak again.
I'd just like one clarification, and I believe that the selectmen in this year's budget increased the administrative assistant's salary and time and hours, so she's actually going to cover some of the open hours. Yeah, I think you're still going to have selectmen hours too, correct, but we're actually going to have and to Adelaine's point, we're going to have the office open because we're going to have the selectman secretary and the code enforcement in her role as code enforcement. She's actually going to be keeping the office open. So we are beginning to invest a little bit more money in our staff than we have in the past, just to clarify this. Again, this position for a long time, as I understand it, historically was considered an honorary position. A lot of towns still have selectmen who consider it that way and don't take anything for it. But it is what it is. It just seemed high. That's why I did it. I think.
Thank you, Frank. Any further discussion to the amendment? Bob?
Bob Russo. I somewhat agree with Frank about the fact that the numbers are different from the towns. However, back when this was an honorarium, I remember as a selectman, when you had a board of 3, you'd walk into a meeting as a new selectman, and everything was already decided because the town was run by one selectman. We're beyond those days. We're beyond those days. We're beyond the days of when we did the things at home. Brookfield, one of the smallest towns in the state, now take whatever, and I'm not sure who it is, but take one of the largest towns in the state. There's books over there called RSAs. Brookfield still has to do exactly what the largest town in the state has to do. However, many times the selectmen will sit there in a meeting and they'll do their executive work, they'll come up with their decision, they turn around and they'll hand it off to that department. Well, that department's not there. The department is the same 3 selectmen that just came up with a job, and now they're the ones that have to go out and do the work. So the legwork is there. And I think these 3 gentlemen, just like most of the others that are in here, as it's been said, didn't sign up for the money. But it's well worth our investment in getting the people there. So, again, I understand what Frank's saying, because it was a big number and it changed. And when it jumped from that 2, whoever made that, to the 5, I think most people in the audience kind of gasped, but they also recognized that the people that were serving needed it. So I highly encourage us to disrespect Frank, but to not agree with Frank's amendment and continue with what we have.
Is there any other comments about the amendment? Go ahead.
Jessica Robichaud, Gurney Road. I just want to let everybody know, people don't realize how much goes into running a town. There's a lot of knowledge that you need to know, and I never knew it until I got to the position, honestly. I got 3 positions, but there's a lot that goes into this. People don't realize how much work that they need to do. So I oppose Frank's whatever.
Any other comments to the amendment? In that case, we'll be voting on the amendment. All those in favor of Frank's amendment, Frank, I'm going to read it again so everyone knows what we're voting on. This is Frank's amendment. I move that we amend line 4130.101, selectman's salary to be $7,500. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Nay. The amendment is defeated. We are now back to the original question.
No.
Which is to see if the town will raise and appropriate the selectmen's budget. Is there any further discussion to the original motion? Cliff?
I would just like to draw to point on, if you have your town report on page 17, if you come down to the subtotal operating budget line, which is right under 4619, you'll notice that last year's total for the operating budget was $628,274. We actually ended up spending, through a lot of hard work and determination and help from all the different commissions, committees, and department heads, we only spent $574,104. This year we're proposing a budget of $608,687, which is $19,000 and some change less than last year's operating budget. We continue to strive to keep our town budget well in control. We have a wonderful group of people who work in this town that are budget-minded, and it's a doable budget. And we should be proud that we don't have to go out and borrow money or bond anything in order to operate our town.
Can I?
Go ahead, Bill.
I think I caught a problem here. The 608,687 is with warrants.
No, it's without.
It's the same one.
This section's without.
No, that's the subtotal operating budget. Your warrants are underneath, and then your total with warrants is down here.
The warrant articles would not be
All
included
underneath,
in
put
that.
all the other.
Yeah, these are all your warrants, and there's your total.
And the 2 warrant articles that are not in that.
Just because it has a number doesn't make it a warrant.
Final
That's
figure.
what that is
The
if
two-
it passes.
Okay.
Could I clarify?
Go ahead.
My name is Ernie McLean, I'm the town treasurer. The 2 warrant articles that are above that line, Bill, are not included in that total.
But they are included in the bottom total.
They are included in the bottom total.
They have to pass in order for it to be
Oh, I see,
part
the
of the budget.
766.
Yes.
Gotcha, all right, that's fine.
Bernie.
Yeah, I would just like to comment that the selectmen are very proud of the fact that we brought that budget in substantially below what you authorized us to spend. And despite that, with our ongoing program of working to improve the roads in the town, while we still don't have perfect roads in town, I would have to say that the roads are probably in better shape than they've ever been overall. And we're continuing to make good, solid progress, and yet we've worked very diligently to not only not spend all the money you authorize, but to work within the monies you give us, and this proposed budget is actually less than the previous years because we're continuing to try to help in any way we can. We know the school tax increase hit all your tax bills, so we're trying to do what we can at the town level to help you.
Good. Any other discussion? Rob.
Rob Collins. We hear a lot about unfunded liabilities, and my question is, I understand that through the school, we pay through our taxes to the school and everything else, there's probably some unfunded liabilities there from pensions and things like that, potentially. My question specifically is, with regard to our operating budget specifically, do we have anything that's overhanging us, that's going to come down the road in the future that isn't really reflected here in terms of pensions and things like that? I know we outsource to everything paid to wages.
Don't know the answer to the question if you don't ask it, okay?
Mr. Moderator?
Please.
The answer to your question, Rob, is very simple. What you see on this paper is what the town authorizes us to purchase. We have no bonds, we have no pensions, we have no undisclosed liabilities anywhere coming down at us that is going to sneak up and hit us down the road, other than at the end of the 5 years, which we're putting away in trust funds, the monies for the property reevals every 5 years. We set up trust funds in order to cover emergencies and expenses for repairs of the building, for repairs of roads and bridges, equipment, that kind of thing. But we have no other liabilities outstanding. We have no borrowed money.
The reason I ask is because I don't understand what our contract is with Wakefield, for example, for police and fire and the transfer station. I'm not sure. So I guess I'm sure that they have potential for promises that haven't been paid for yet. And that's where I guess what I'm asking is, what is our commitment to those kinds of issues?
Okay. Clifton?
Wakefield is a contract service for us. We negotiate that. Wakefield tells us what our expenses are going to be. If we don't like those expenses, we have the option to take it to a different contractor. We enjoy Wakefield's presence. They've done a wonderful job, both police, fire, and ambulance, and the transfer station. They've done outstanding. But it is a contracted service. Other than the contract amounts that we agree to every year, Those are our only liabilities and requirements to the town of Wakefield for those services.
Very good.
Just one follow-up. I think that's great. That's exactly the kind of answer I want to hear. I'm really happy to live in a town that doesn't have bonds and debt. It doesn't have big scary things hanging over their head. It's awesome.
Thank you. Any further discussion to the warrant? Frank?
Just to follow on that, and it is very good the way our town has been operated and managed. There is one thing hanging overhead. It's the plaster on the ceiling, and it's the condition of the building back there. We are going to be faced as a town, not tonight, but we do have an engineering report on the conditions of the old schoolhouse, which is not in good condition at all. In fact, recommended that not more than 4 or 5 people walk in that room at one time. At this point in time, we know that there's a so as a town, we are going to be over the next few years, with the guidance of the historical commission, having to deal with the maintenance of these 2 very old buildings and the fact that the 2 buildings are not behaving with each other too well. The schoolhouse is actually causing damage to this building, so there is probably going to be some costs there, but it's not like unfunded pension plans or something like that. But it is something we're going to have to deal with as a town over the next few years. I'm sure we're going to see it come up. Even though there is money in, but there is some maintenance budget, there might be additional costs we have to look at as a town.
I think Clifton wants to respond to that.
No, I'm just going to reiterate and say, Frank is right. This building is an asset to the town. Yeah. And we want to protect this asset by making repairs that make sense and that are cost effective. It's a wonderful historic building, and we would love to keep it that way. And as a town, we will decide what we are going to spend and what we're not going to spend to preserve this building. That is the great thing about our form of government here in Brookfield, is we decide as a town how much money we're going to spend. We all have a voice. And in the absence of the voice, you've elected your selectmen to make those decisions for you if you don't make your voice heard. So we ask that you come to the selectmen's meetings if you have something that's on your mind that needs to be said. Write us a letter, send us an email. We did come into the 21st century. We have email now. So you can let us know. But as a town, we will decide those liabilities and expenses.
Go ahead.
I would ask that the critical needs assessment from the Salmon Falls engineering outfit that we paid $10,000 for last year be posted on the website so everybody can become familiar with it, especially in the condition of the Churchill Schoolhouse.
I will forward that over to the Heritage Commission.
Thank you.
It's still being processed.
We had a discussion about it a couple weeks ago here, and it was bad weather, but that's an excellent idea to have it posted on the website. Let's keep our discussion to the motion at present, which is the budget. Is there any further discussion towards the budget? Are you guys ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. I believe that brings us to the end of our warrant articles that have been posted. At this point in time, we have a selectman who's retiring after a great many years of service to the town in a number of different capacities. And I'd like to know if somebody would like to thank you, Cliff.
Mr. Ernie Brown has decided that he no longer wants to be a selectman, that he wants to semi-retire again and enjoy life a little bit more and focus in some other areas. I can honestly say that working with Ernie Brown, I have learned a great deal. He's been a great teacher. He's been an excellent selectman and partner. And I am very sad to see him go. Mr. Zacher is going to step up and take his place, though I don't know if condolences or congratulations are in place. We'll see in the next couple of months. We'll see Ernie around town. He's still looking to work for the school board, and we hope that he got reelected tonight. He's done an awesome job.